Call meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance, Councilmember Lawson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Larkey,
Here.
Councilmember White,
He
Councilmember
had
Thompson.
to step away. His wife got in a
Here. Okay. Councilmember Pryan,
Here.
Councilmember Davidson,
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Richardson,
Here.
Councilmember McCallum,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Personal appearances, years of service recognition. Who's up first?
Yes. 1/8 of an inch. I'll take it.
Take it.
Chief Scott Lyons with the Belton Police Department. Detective Brandon Kostowski, can you join me? Brandon first started with the Belton Police Department September 20th, 1999. It marks 25 years of dedicated service to this community. He served as a patrol officer, an SRO, and he's been a detective in the detective unit for 6 years. And so we're proud to give him his certificate. And thank you for your service. And he's been an outstanding employee.
You got to give a speech. I think that is a no. He's not even looking back. Not even looking back.
It is my honor to recognize Tracy Oliver tonight for 20 years of service for the Belton Park Department. For those that know her or those that don't, she's come full circle with our department. She's been a fitness attendant, a front desk attendant, kids corner attendant, and today, as the administrative services manager, she's in charge of kids corner and the front desk, along with countless other responsibilities that change on a daily basis. So, Tracy, you're truly a valued employee. We are thankful that you're on our team and look forward to continued contributions. Thank you.
Oh, you gotta stay for the meeting.
Anybody else? No. All right. E, unfinished business. One motion to postpone the final reading of Bill 2024-51 to October 10, 2024 City Council meeting.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $15,250,000 principal amount of general obligation bonds, Series 2024 of the City of Belton, Missouri, and certain other documents and actions by the city.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Or do you want to? You're up. Dad's away and the kids are playing.
We're just asking for a postponement. I don't foresee the audit being done by the end of September, like we'd hoped. So we're going to postpone the second reading.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, or roll call?
No, it's voice vote.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Had me confused because it said final reading. Item 2, motion approving final reading of Bill 2024-50.
An ordinance approving the 23rd Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan to approve the 711 C Street project as redevelopment project 2024-4 and to authorize tax abatements as described therein.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion, anything to add?
Nothing to add tonight.
Hearing none, roll call.
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Pryan,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
McCallum,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Thompson,
Yes.
Davidson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 3, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2024-52.
An ordinance amending the schedule of fees of the City of Belton, Missouri, as set forth in the Code of Ordinances, City of Belton, Missouri, as it relates to the rates charged by the Belton Fire Department for ambulance transportation services to reflect the Medicaid-approved rates for the same.
Present.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? You have anything to add?
Not as long as nobody has any questions.
Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Pryan,
Aye.
Davidson,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Johnson,
Aye.
McCallum,
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
Richardson.
Aye.
Motion passes. F, new business. Motion approving the first reading of Bill 2024-53.
An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Belton, Missouri, by adding Division 5 to Chapter 2, Article 4 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Belton, Missouri, to define blighted, substandard, and insanitary areas, and for the reclamation of blighted, substandard, and insanitary areas.
Present.
Second.
A motion and a second. You're up.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. This ordinance specifically takes the authority that was granted to the city as a constitutional charter city under Article 6, Section 21, and provides a process and a definition of blight and substandard and insanitary areas so that the city can avail itself of its ability to utilize condemnation to condemn those substandard, blighted, and insanitary areas. The ordinance specifically before you is modeled off of other charter cities that have adopted similar processes, and this would in the future allow the City Council to, instead of having to do adopt this ordinance every single time, it instead would provide that definition of blight for the city moving forward, should there be a situation where condemnation is necessary of blighted, substandard, or insanitary areas. And I'll answer any questions that members of the council might have.
Any questions? Go ahead.
All right, so so I understand there's a definition being brought forward and all of, and I looked through what you provided. But in terms of, I imagine some varying interpretation from time to time. And I guess my question is, who's gonna make that determination when there is that variance of interpretation on when something's blighted?
So I will say, like all good attorneys, I didn't come up with the definition that is being added into the city code. That is the definition of blighted areas that's provided in other statutory sections of Missouri law. However, there was a case about 5 years ago out of North Kansas City that in a roundabout way said to not use those definitions unless you're a charter city and you follow this process. So the definition that we have is the definition that has been interpreted by courts for about the past 50 years in the state of Missouri, so we'll rely on those interpretations.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
If I read this correctly, anytime there is a question about blighted areas, based upon the definition, it'll be up to the city council to make that determination. Is that correct?
Yes, the determination of blight is a legislative decision that is up to the city council. I will say that the process of the city of Belton and of most cities is to hire a third-party consultant that has specific knowledge and expertise in determining whether or not areas are blighted, substandard, and insanitary. So in the future, if this were to be utilized, it would be accompanied with a blight study as well.
Thank you. That's what I was wondering, if we would have additional information so that we could make a determination on the blight.
Yes, and I believe that I am authorized to do it by Missouri law, but I will never be the one drafting a blight study for you guys. It'll always be somebody else that does it throughout the state and does it on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
It'll be evident that the areas are blighted, correct? Or is that also an interpretation?
That would be up to the city council, but they would be accompanied all times that the city would be attempting to, or asking the city council to declare an area blighted, substandard, or insanitary. It would be accompanied by a blight study explaining why it was blighted under the definition.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, it won't be like someone driving down the road and calling up the city and say, this area over here is blighted. I mean, it'll be evident, I'm assuming, but it'll also be studied.
Yeah, and I mean,
Okay.
just one person can't call the city and utilize this ordinance. This ordinance can only be utilized after city staff has prepared an ordinance to present to the city council declaring a certain property blighted.
Okay, okay.
And then also, just so the city council is aware, not this ordinance, but the other two ordinances that flow from this, and those two ordinances, time is of the essence, so city staff would appreciate a double read on this and the next two ordinances as well.
Go ahead.
You stole one of my questions. The second one is, I would take it the landowner would have the right to come and say why it's not blighted,
Of
right?
course, there would be, obviously, they would have their opportunity to come and be before the city council and state why it's not blighted. They would also then have their opportunity to question the blight study should the good faith negotiations with that property owner not be successful in front of the Circuit Court of Cass County.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, and so while I fully understand what you just said about asking for a double read, could you just provide the reason why we're under a time constraint?
Can I do that in the next one where it's more relevant?
Sure.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion for a second.
Second.
We have a motion for a second reading. Motion and a second for a second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion approving the second reading of Bill 2024-53.
An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Belton, Missouri by adding Division 5 to Chapter 2, Article 4 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Belton, Missouri, to define blighted, substandard, and insanitary areas, and for the reclamation of blighted, substandard, and insanitary areas.
Present.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Lawson. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Thompson.
Yes.
Richardson.
Aye.
Pryan.
Aye.
McCallum.
Aye.
Davidson.
Yes.
Mayor Larkey.
Yes. Motion carries. Item 2, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2024-54.
An ordinance declaring property described herein to be blighted, substandard, and insanitary area under Section 2-1000 of the Code of Ordinances, and its clearance, replanning, reconstruction, redevelopment, and rehabilitation necessary and in the public interest.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You're up.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm starting to feel like Greg, since I'll be up here not only for this one, but also the next one. And Councilmember McCollum, this is where I can answer the question that you asked in the last time. But so this ordinance flows from the last one and is the city council utilizing that definition of blight that was adopted during the last ordinance to determine that the park and ride area is blighted due to the deterioration of site improvements causing the property to be an economic or social liability, meaning that it does not produce reasonable taxes, and then a menace to the public health, safety, and welfare because as the blight study that is attached as Exhibit B illustrates, there is a significant amount of calls for service to police and fire out at this property over the last 5 years. But the reason why we're asking for a double read is during the process of approving the transfer of the park and ride, it was determined that there is a lingering property interest from two individuals that owned the property 50 years ago. And so to clear that and to make sure that there is good and marketable title so that the property can be put to economic use, the city is asking that it be declared blighted.
Any questions? Can you explain the property issue? Not in, just general.
Generally, when MoDOT acquired the property in 1968, it was from two sisters, Monty and Mary Cunningham. It was believed, I believe by MoDOT and by everybody, that they cleared out all of the holdover rights and any rights that were left. However, they did not. In our research of Mary and Monty Cunningham and their potential heirs, both of them passed away without children, without spouses, and without siblings. So determination of heirs is extremely difficult. So instead of spending the next 2 years trying to track every single heir, great, great, great cousin down to the 5th degree of consanguinity, instead we are going to move forward via this process. Just so everybody is aware, I have also hired a genealogist to do some research and be able to provide us hopefully with some names of people that we can contact. But that is the property interest issue that is at play here.
Any questions?
And I would note for all council members, if the previous ordinance that you adopted, if it's ever used again, it will follow a very similar form to what you see before you here, where there will be a legal description and a full blight study that goes through the definition, that includes pictures and case law of what is blighted, and then goes through and exactly points out what makes the property blighted, substandard, or insanitary under the definition.
Just
Go ahead.
for clarity of timeline, MoDOT acquired the property in 1968. When did the city of Belton?
Was that about a year ago now?
Gotcha. Okay.
Anybody else?
So a year ago, this issue didn't come up when the city acquired it.
No, this issue was brought up and a revised title report was provided to the city about a month ago now. So we found out pretty late in the game.
Okay. And as you've said, you've already started the process of making sure there are no existing heirs.
Yes, for the first time I had to Google professional genealogists. Luckily, there is one in Kansas City, and she was able to take my call Friday and has already begun the process of attempting to determine who would be the heirs of 2 sisters that died without children, without spouses, and without siblings.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion for a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a second reading. Any discussion on the motion for a second reading? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion approving the second reading of Bill 2024-54.
An ordinance declaring property described herein to be blighted, substandard, and insanitary area under Section 2-1000 of the Code of Ordinances and its clearance, replanning, reconstruction, redevelopment, and rehabilitation necessary and in the public interest.
Present.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Richardson,
Aye.
Thompson,
Yes.
Pryan,
Aye.
Davidson,
Yes.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
McCallum,
Aye.
Mayor Larkey.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 3, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2024-55.
An ordinance determining and declaring the necessity of acquiring certain property interests in property described herein to remediate blighting, substandard, and insanitary conditions, authorizing the city manager and his designees to negotiate to acquire certain property interests, and authorizing the city attorney and his designees to institute condemnation proceedings if such interests in real property cannot be acquired by purchase through good faith negotiations.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. You're up.
Mayor, members of council, this is the final time you'll hopefully have to hear from me tonight, but this is the final ordinance in the trio that gets us to the point where the city can attempt to acquire the remaining property interests in the park and ride property from the potential heirs of Monty and Mary Cunningham. As I stated earlier, Article 6, Section 21 of the Missouri Constitution authorizes cities to acquire property that is blighted, substandard, or insanitary. The city council before this has adopted a definition of blighted, substandard, and insanitary, and I am saying insanitary correctly. For some reason, the Missouri Constitution, instead of saying unsanitary, says insanitary, which nobody exactly knows 100% what that means, but read together, we just treat it as unsanitary. You've adopted the definition of blight, you've declared the property blighted, and then this is that final step from that authority granted by the Constitution to reclaim the property through the use of condemnation for its replanning and remediation of the blighted, substandard, and insanitary conditions. And as noted previously, those conditions on this property were economic and social liability due to the deterioration of site improvements and the fact that there were significant amounts of police calls to that area and calls for service during the past 5-year period. So the replanning of it and putting it to economic use would remediate those two conditions.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion for a second.
Second.
We have a second, or motion and a second for a second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion approving the second reading of Bill 2024-55.
An ordinance determining and declaring the necessity of acquiring certain property interests and property described herein to remediate blighting, substandard, and insanitary conditions, authorizing the city manager and his designees to negotiate to acquire certain property interests, and authorizing the city attorney and his designees to institute condemnation proceedings if such interests in real property cannot be acquired by purchase through good faith negotiations.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Pryan,
Aye.
Davidson,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Johnson,
Aye.
McCallum,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Mayor Larkey,
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 4, motion approving resolution 2024-79.
A resolution approving the purchase of 15 portable radios and accessories from Motorola Solutions for $91,938.54.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Oh,
We need a motion,
present.
please.
My bad.
Second.
Motion and a second. You're up.
That's usually quicker than that.
I dozed.
This is the second part of our purchase. We began this last year replacing our current portable radios that we use on the radio system. The ones that we have are some of the original ones that we bought, and they have reached the end of life. They're still working now, but we have lost a few of them, and they still repair them for now, but they're not producing parts anymore. And so this, in addition, is adding a few radios because we've added personnel and apparatus so that we'll have adequate number of radios in each of them. And what we hope is that this should take us through at least the next 10 years before we're ready to upgrade all of them again, which is becoming a very expensive venture each time we do it. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Go
I
ahead.
just want to make sure, and clarify, this was already on the budget and already planned for, even though it is a large expense, it's something that we had already allocated for.
Yes, we had added that in this year's budget, and it was approved in that budget.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, motion approving resolution 2024-80.
A resolution approving a contract with Holiday FX LLC for the purchase and installation of holiday lights on Main Street.
Present.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. You're up.
So this past summer, the staff was asked to explore the possibility of the city taking over the holiday light contract, or at least kind of being a single point of contact for the installation of holiday lights on Main Street and downtown here. This past summer, in July, in August, we put out an RFP for those services. The city received 5 qualified bids on September 6th, outlining the cost of purchasing the holiday lights, installing the holiday lights. As part of this RFP, we also added 2 deadlines in there. One of them was they had to be installed by November 23rd, the date of the mayor's Christmas tree lighting. And then second, we had a deadline in there that they had to be removed no later than February 1st. As part of the contract as well. This contract also asked for, as part of the contract, we also asked for what a cost of the storing of the lights securely, so that we wouldn't necessarily have to rely on any storage here at City Hall. The RFP also contemplated lighting at the top of, just the top of the downtown core commercial buildings, as well as City Hall Annex and to Cherry Street. At our September 10th council meeting, council did direct staff to reach back out to those vendors that had provided bids to also include pricing on the mayor's Christmas tree, adding lights to the City Hall Annex here, the trees, as well as going onto the fire station and other buildings, the bank, on the other side of downtown. Only 2 respondents out of the 5 did not provide pricing for those additional items. However, Holiday FX, Rigged In, Luminous Lighting did provide for all 3 of the alternate bids as well as the base bid. Based on that, we are recommending Holiday FX as the contractor or the bidder that we would recommend. And they would begin immediately with purchase, and then also we would negotiate with an installation date. And then finally, with once the contract is completed at the end of the holiday season, go forward with storing of those holiday lights for the entirety of the downtown area. Darren Moon, the owner of Holiday FX, is here and is happy to answer any questions that you might have, but I'm also happy to answer any questions that you might have about this item before the council this evening.
Any questions? Alex?
All right,
Strictly or
so, you may have just answered it, but I want to clarify. So that last meeting when we spoke about this, there seems to be a pretty significant change in what those bids finally came to.
Correct.
So yeah, I want to talk about what that change is.
So the bid tab that council saw at the work session, for example, Holiday FX, they had initially only put in for the base bid of providing the lights on the core businesses and then provided pricing for decorating the mayor's Christmas tree. Based on council's direction for wanting to see pricing for all 3 of the alternate bids, went back to all of the vendors and said, can you provide us some kind of pricing on all the alternate bids? O'Leary and Quality Window Cleaning were the only 2 that did not provide those final 3 alternate bids. The Holiday FX, Rigged In, and Luminous did provide pricing for all 3 of those alternate bids. And so what you see in the memo here is the base bid for those core businesses, or the lighting on the core businesses, plus the mayor's Christmas tree, plus the lights on the annex trees here, as well as lighting on the fire station and other businesses west of Cherry.
The only other follow-up I have to that is, so with those changes, Rigged In and Holiday FX came extremely close in price. So I'm just wondering if there's anything other than price that maybe differentiated the 2 companies.
Yes, so when checking references, one of the things that sort of tipped the scale, at least as we were kind of going through the process, was Holiday FX has worked not only with city governments in the past, but also have worked with like the Independent Square Association, which is a very similar type business area, where as well as I believe is it Excelsior Springs? Yeah. And so very familiar with the type of inline buildings and work that'll need to be done here, but also there's a little bit more comfort in knowing that they've worked with cities in the past, and so they kind of know our process and sort of our expectations going forward.
Awesome. And then there was a question last time about how the installation will take place, because my understanding is some of the business owners were concerned about people being on their roof, and maybe you can confirm that how you do that. Do you use a scissor lift, or what do you know?
Can you hear me?
Come up to the microphone, please.
We can, but the people watching at home can't.
Do state your name, please, and address.
My name's Darren Moon, and it's 939 Homestead Street, Excelsior Springs, Missouri. We use a boom, okay? So right now, through all of our cities, and we rotate it around, we'll have an 80-foot boom that we will be using through the streets. We're very comfortable with this scenario. And we work directly with the business owners, finding out what their particulars are. And we try to be very considerate of that. So if they don't want us on their building, then we won't get on it. We can manage it without it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
And we're not wrapping the poles like we had before in the past.
That's correct.
Just the outline of the buildings and the mayor's Christmas tree.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
It was a no.
It's your no? Okay, motion carries. Item G, consent agenda. One motion non-debatable to approve the recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for an item to be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd like to have number 4 pulled, please.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, motion approving resolution 2024-83.
A resolution authorizing and approving the on-call contract for generator maintenance services between the City of Belton and Central Power Systems and Services for a term of 3 years with the option of up to 5 subsequent one-year periods, not to exceed 8 years.
Do you want to go first?
We
or
need
you
a
want me
motion,
to-
please.
Need a motion and a second.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. You're up.
Do you want to, okay, go ahead.
Let him
So this is
talk.
an on-call contract. There's actually 3 of them on the agenda tonight. And basically, one of the methods we use for procuring items is to put people on call. So on-call contracts are a pretty simple deal. It's a pre-established contract we have with contractors for services. We have this with electricians, with plumbers, with HVAC people. So to give you an example of how valuable it is that if you think about your HVAC, we're required, if you're gonna do repair, we're $1,500. We have to go out and get bids. We have to advertise and start doing things that way. So if you're without heat or air conditioning, and you come to me at a city building saying, I'd like the heat turned back on, I would tell you, great, let me prepare a bid. I'll get the bids out, advertise it, receive the bids, go through them, make a contract, and get someone out here. Or would you prefer me to call someone who's on contract or have a contract with, they show up and fix it right away? So it's a tool that we use as different tools that are available to us for procurement, and this is one of the tools we have. So in this case, this is for our generators. So we have generators at our fire stations, at our lift stations, at the police station. So if power goes out, we're able to call someone and then work on our generators, because we check them all the time, make sure that they're running, and have someone come out immediately and keep them up and going, because you never know when we need a generator. And so that's what this contract does. We have 3 people that we have contracts with. Until we call them for service, we pay them no money. And so we have, like for HVAC, we have 5 people in our contract, because when you need somebody, sometimes the person you normally call is busy. We have several different options. So in this case, for generators, we have 3 options to call people. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions?
I don't necessarily have a question. I just really wanted Greg to go through that because I think it's important for the public to understand it. There's 3 contracts on here. I just picked the one in the middle out to talk about it for this particular thing, and I just thought that was something that was noteworthy for people to understand, because even me, when I looked at it at first, I said, well, why do we have 3 on here? So I appreciate you explaining that, and the fact that it doesn't cost us anything until it becomes an emergency. I assume this will be something approved by our new BEMA manager as well, because it makes sense. But anyways, thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. H, communication from City Council. Councilmember Johnson.
Went to the Fall Festival on Friday. It seemed like we had a pretty good crowd. The weather was pretty good. It was warm, but it was pretty good. And then appreciated going to the Missouri Municipal League Conference and enjoyed that. So that's
All right. Just want to give an update from the TDD board. We recently met again at our normal meeting. One of the topics that was discussed that I think everyone will be asking questions about was the final phase of Mullen Road expansion. So one of the things that we were assured from the team is that Mullen Road will be open for the Christmas holiday. So they seemed pretty optimistic about it. They thought it would even be sooner than that, but they assured us it would be open for the Christmas holiday. So there it is. It's been put out there. They have assuming, no craziness happens. I may have just jinxed us with that. But anyways, that was something I wanted to bring up. I also, of course, have a Parks update. Parks is planning a stream cleanup for the stream that's coming out of Cleveland Lake. More details will be announced once it's all solidified. One of the other things that came up at the park meeting was the Mom Prom, which is taking place on October 12th. There was some concern that there might be confusion about this, and as maybe people think that it's a mother-daughter event kind of situation, and they were clarifying, and so I thought I'd help with that clarification that this is more akin to like a ladies' night that's taking place at Memorial Station. It'll include dinner, drinks, and raffle tickets. And then we have the car show taking place this weekend, September 28th, so on Saturday. So make sure you come out. Looking like the rain's going to stop by then. It'll be a good time. And then, unless I've got my math wrong, this will be the last farmers market this week. So if you're looking for fresh, goods, make sure you get out there. It's the last one until next year. And the only other thing, and I guess Councilmember Davidson, I guess it's on you since White had to run away, but I have a question regarding the homelessness committee minutes. Just was hoping you could fill us in on a more specific update regarding the reimbursement program that was discussed, because I know kind of what that's referring to, but just or were you not present? Is that where?
I was
Oh, you were,
present,
okay.
But I think Mike would give a much better explanation
Oh,
than I
perfect.
would.
Okay. Well, then, at some point, either after we all finish or right now, whatever, but I just would, if you could provide that, I think that would be great. In other words, I got nothing else.
Yeah, we can do it now.
You
Go ahead.
piqued our interest.
Go ahead.
So, council through the budget process had allocated money to be set aside specifically for the homelessness committee. One of the things that the homelessness committee had discussed was, because the committee is made up of partner organizations, what would be the most appropriate way for us to disperse those funds to those partner organizations? Since the city can't necessarily just write a check to those organizations, what we established was, and kind of discussed and got some really good guidance from the committee, was what if we established it as a reimbursement program? And I kind of modeled it off of the 353 program, where we will have groups, partner groups within the organization or within the city, must be city-based, must be addressing homelessness in some fashion, specifically in this instance for, say, emergency sheltering. They would make an application to staff, staff would review, homelessness committee would make a review and a recommendation to council for that eventual disbursement, and then we would look at invoices, certified costs before actually making that reimbursement. We're trying to keep it as transparent as possible, but also to ensure that we have, the appropriate records for us to make a disbursement like this through kind of what I think the council had intended.
Okay, thank you. On that topic, because I know there was some discussion, or at least I had some concern that I felt it is important that we provide our committees with appropriate funding as needed, but we had never done that before, and we had not had a process in place. So I'm glad to hear we're putting a process in place for that, and that's kind of what I was looking for. So I appreciate that update. And I still think we might need to revisit what that process looks like from a more holistic budgeting standpoint, just as a side note going forward, because obviously I assume not just the homelessness committee could use potential funds in the future, so.
Yeah, my hope is, and the homelessness committee for the past year has been working on really a strategic plan with some prioritized goals, and my hope is to be able to bring that to the council as well, really kind of give a broader, here's the work that the homelessness committee has been doing the past year, as we kind of go forward even into the budget season.
Thank you for explaining that after I put you on the spot.
All I got to say is Fall Fest went great. We had a good turnout. I know all the businesses seemed really good. A lot of people had fun, some great music up there. Also, the Arts Committee, accepted our first mural going under 71 Highway on the tunnel comes out by Menards on the other side, so they're painting a big mural under there, which I'm looking forward to. I think it'll be pretty neat for Belton, so that's all I got.
I'll say that tunnel's part of the Pirate Dash 5K, and that would be a good improvement to the 5K route to have that there. Fall Fest was great. I think I saw most folks there enjoying themselves. Here's a question. I'm kind of jumping ahead. Under City Manager's report, I like the inclusion of board and commission meeting minutes, but I don't see park or planning's minutes in this agenda packet, and maybe because it goes from the pro circuit resolution on page 223 to the homelessness committee meeting minutes on 224. I also downloaded this from the Laserfish site.
I believe they're in there.
About that.
No, I do feel bad nitpicking a 264-page document, but maybe something.
No, it needs to be correct. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll look at that
I
right
know
now.
what Andrea cares about. Anyway, that's all I have.
I have nothing at this time.
Fall Fest was great, and then tomorrow night, we have the town hall meeting here at the annex. Thanks.
I did not attend Fall Fest because I was recovering from being at the MML thing. My brain was still jarred. And Andrea, I don't think that the codes minutes are in there either. The codes advisory committee meetings are in there. Is that right? Should they have been?
The ones that should have been were listed on page 3,
Okay,
Park Board Planning and Homelessness.
okay, all right.
So I'm checking that now, and I'll let
Okay.
you all know in just a
Okay.
moment.
All right.
Oh, I don't know when codes met, but I know that we're supposed to do it after the minutes are approved by that,
Okay, so
that
that's the
group, so maybe that's
where it
why.
has fallen.
So the last set of code enforcement advisory committee minutes were put in a couple of months back.
Oh, okay.
And then the
Okay.
minutes from last meeting last week will be in the next council
Okay,
agenda.
all
once
right.
that-
Yeah, that's a new thing to me. Still going to the Senior Citizen Center for Tai Chi. It was a very nice break from coming after sitting 4 days up there and talking to all these different people. They have a very active Facebook page, the Belton Senior Citizen Center does. They will be having a raffle sometime in November as one of their fundraisers. Please watch for the Facebook posts. They do it regularly, and we're just having a great time over there. I mean, it's just, Tai Chi's been awesome, and they're very excited to have new people there, and just check them out.
All right.
Wait, I owe an
no,
apology. It's fine. You're great. Good job. My bad.
I was ready. I was prepared.
And we stand corrected. All right, I did attend Fall Fest. It was excellent. I tried to get both days in, and I went down to the MML conference where there were some good items, topics of information, so learned a little bit there. So that's all I have. You got anything?
Don't have anything.
All right, items for review and discussion, benefits renewal.
I just wanted to remind everyone that open enrollment is coming up in late October for the new plan year. And since some of you weren't here last year, just wanted to review that we did move from Cigna to Aetna. Cigna did not give us a lot of the information, the data that we wanted to make good plan decisions, plan design changes, cost, looking at that. So we went to a bundled plan, basically moving from Cigna, Delta Dental, VSP to Aetna products. And in the course of that time, it saved us about $100,000. And with the renewals, we added some benefits. We added critical incident and accident through MetLife. And because of these changes, we were able to get rate guarantees. So we have rate guarantees for all products except medical. So we will be bringing that to council next meeting. Casey and I do have some discussions because we did have, when we did renew or go with Aetna last year, was a 12.9% increase. And so they gave us that rate cap that we would not go over that. We did get the renewal, it's slightly under that. And so we'll be talking about what that means for employees at our meeting next time. For those of you who want to review that in a little bit more detail, it was October 10th of 2023, and the CAR and the resolution are there if you wanted to go back and renew that. And I just wanted to let you know that.
Did you write that down?
Any questions?
I just have
Go
a
ahead.
quick question. How long is the open enrollment window?
It's going to be about 3 weeks. We do have the holiday, and because we take the deductions the month prior to, we have to have everything in by mid to late November for December deductions.
I just found out my one at work is like a week long, and I thought that was unusual.
No, we'll give it probably about 3 weeks.
Anybody else? Thank you. Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned.
We haven't had to do that in so long.
I know, haven't had to do that one.